Okay, good day everyone. So as a continuation for the last part of the skeletal system, we have the last part of the appendicular skeleton, which is the pelvic limb. Okay, so that is the pelvic girdle, and we have the hind limb. So we have already done with the thoracic limb, so dito na tayo sa pelvic limb. So mas madali na to in terms of the discussion. So as for the uh, pelvic limb, so it usually comprises with the os coccyx or the hip bone. We have the femur or the bone of the thigh, yung tibia and fibula, which usually forms yung bones of the leg. And then we have the tarsals, metatarsals, and then we have the digital bone. So this is just the same, almost the same lang naman tong mga to in terms of the thoracic limb. Kasi dito is carpals, metacarpals, and then we have the digital bones. Okay? So in contrast with the thoracic limb, there is usually a true joint joining dito sa pelvic limb with a trunk. This is because of the sacroiliac joint between the sacrum and the ilium of the pelvic bone. Okay, so the coxofemoral joint naman is an articulation between doon sa os coccyx and the round head of the femur. Okay, then we have here, next one, we have the knee joint. This is usually a compound joint. Same is true with the stifle joint. They are usually compound joint forming between the distal end of the femur with the tibia and with the femur and the patella. Kaya nga dito, tinatawag dito na femoropatellar articulation and then femorotibial articulation. Okay? And then next one, we have the stifle joint between the leg bones and the tarsal bones and the articulations within the tarsus itself. Okay? So just like with your thoracic limb, the metatarsophalangeal joint is the fetlock, the proximal interphalangeal joint, that is the pastern, and then the distal interphalangeal joint, that is the coffin joint. Okay? So let's start with the os coccyx of the animals. Usually yung os coccyx, this is divided into, or this is subdivided into three parts. We have the ischium, we have the pubis, and then we have the ilium. So anatomically speaking, we can compare yung mga hip bones ng animals usually by identifying yung orientation ng tinatawag natin na gluteal surface. Etong mga to. These are the gluteal surface and the number of the gluteal lines in that particular gluteal surface. So ano ba yung purpose etong gluteal surface? So etong surface na to, it usually provides a stable foundation for the attachment ng mga muscles. Most notably yung mga gluteal muscles na to. Okay? Ano yung mga usual na purpose ng mga to? It's usually for hip movement, since it is on the part of the pelvic limb, so it's more on the hip movement, stability, and we have the posture. So there are three na gluteal muscles. We have the gluteus maximus. So this is the largest of the gluteal muscles, and it's usually responsible for hip extension and external rotation. And then we have the gluteus medius. So this is located doon sa lateral aspect ng hip, and it's more on tawag dito, yung abduction movement and yung rotation movement ng hip. So that is the purpose of the medius. And then we have the gluteus minimus. Like yung gluteus medius, it assists also with the hip abduction and yung rotation. Okay? So that is for the different gluteal muscles. So kung titignan natin yung gluteal surfaces ng horse and cattle, usually yung gluteal surface, it faces dorsally. Okay? And then pag sa mga dogs and pigs naman, it's usually facing it laterally. Now, in terms of the pelvic bone of the birds, it's usually different. Although it is also the same, meron din siyang tatlong subdivision. We have the pubis, we have the ilium, and then the ischium. So kung makikita natin yung ilium, it is the biggest, and it is usually divided into pre-acetabular ilium, and we have the post at acetabular ilium. So etong naming na to na post and pre, this was based on the location of the acetabulum. Okay, so there are two openings here. We have the smaller one, the obturator foramen, which is just the same with the mammals, and we have the ilioischiadic foramen between the ilium and ischium. Okay? So etong foramen na to, it's usually transmit yung mga sciatic nerves natin. So ano yung usual na purpose ng sciatic nerves in terms of um, since nerves it's more on motor and sensory. Pero in terms of the motor function, yung mga sciatic nerves natin, sila yung nagko-control doon sa muscles ng leg and tsaka yung thigh, which are essential usually sa mga animals natin, more specifically sa mga activities nila like for pag naglalakad sila, pag um, yung in terms of running, in terms of flying, in terms of the birds. So yung mga sciatic nerves, it's more an innervation ng muscles that are responsible for doon sa mga body movements in terms of extension and flexion ng hip, ng ang kanilang knee, and saka yung mga ankle joints nila. So yun yung purpose ng sciatic nerves. Okay? So daanan ito or it transmits, yung foramen, it transmits yung mga sciatic nerves. Yung pubis is long. Kung makikita natin, it's also long as you can see it here. And it's usually separated from the ischium with the openings of the ischiopubic fenestra. Okay? Now we have here the femur. Ito lang naman, it's more on the trochanter. So yung greater trochanter is, kung makikita natin, it's usually at the same level with the head of the femur. Okay? Yun yung dito sa cattle. Okay? More on, dito sa pig, I should say. Yung greater trochanter, nasa same level lang sila with the head of the femur. However, kung titignan natin yung cattle and horse, it's usually higher na yung greater trochanter than the head of the femur. Okay, ito yung head, then this is a greater trochanter. So, yun yung difference between the cattle and then we have the pig. So, kung makikita natin, mas naiiba lang si pig compared sa cattle and horse. However, yung difference naman ng cattle and then the horse is the presence of this one, the third trochanter, which is usually, kung makikita natin, it is absent on the femur of the cattle. Okay, in terms of the femur of the birds, it's almost the same lang naman siya with the mammalian counterpart. However, yung femur kasi ng mga animals natin, ng mga birds natin, usually they are adapted for lightweight purposes kasi doon sa flying purposes nila. Okay? So yung shaft ng femur, usually it is hollow. And dito sa part na to, usually merong mga air sacs dito. And yung mga trabeculae, nandito yung mga air sacs tsaka trabeculae, which usually reduces yung density ng bone para ma-maintain yung strength. Okay? Now, ang kagandahan dito in terms of the femur ng mga babae, in terms of yung mga layer chickens natin, they usually develop yung tinatawag natin na temporary na medullary bones. Okay? That is medullary, medullary bones, doon sa marrow cavity ng femur during egg-laying purposes. So, etong mga bones na to, they usually provide calcium reservoir that could be utilized or mobilized for the eggshell formation. So tumutulong din sila. Okay, that is one unique characteristic of the medullary bones in the femur of the birds. Now dito naman sa tibia and fibula, kung mapapansin lang natin, in terms of the carnivores, we have the dogs and cats. Ang fibula nila is not usually fused dito sa tibia. Okay? So, meron siyang interosseous space. However, sa mga ruminants natin, walang interosseous space dito sa tibia and fibula. Unlike doon sa radius and ulna ng cattle, meron siyang interosseous space. Pero dito wala siyang interosseous space. Okay? In horse naman, only the proximal half of the fibula is usually remaining, which includes now the head and the proximal shaft. Okay? Sa mga baboy naman, it's usually, it's almost the same with the dogs and cats. Meron siyang interosseous space and it's not fused. So kung all in all dito, si cattle lang yung naka-fuse, yung kanyang tibia and fibula. Okay? In the part of the chicken limb, where yung tibia and fibula is usually located, tinatawag natin ito as drumstick. Okay? So, yung fibula, it's usually thin lang siya. Okay? Manipis lang siya, while the tibia is usually fused with the proximal row of the tarsal bone. So it usually forms now the tibiotarsus. Okay? Yung bone mismo, it is usually characterized by a proximal na bony projection which is named as nimial crest. For etong nimial crest, this is for the attachment of the main extensor muscles of the knee joint. So unlike other long bones of the birds, the femur and we have the tibiotarsus, they are usually good source of bone marrow. Okay. And then we have here the tarsals. This is just only the same, almost the same lang naman with the carpals. However, in terms of the proximal row, we have the tibial tarsal bone and we have the fibular tarsal bone. And then in terms of the distal row, we have the first, the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. However, dito naman, in between the two rows is the central tarsal bone. Okay? Sa mga dogs and pigs, usually, so since 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So sa mga dogs and pigs, usually they have 7. Okay? They have 7 dito. Now, in terms of the horse, kung titignan natin, usually yung first and second, nag-fuse sila. So it's more on nasa 6 lang. Okay? However, in terms of the cattle, yung central tarsal bone nila, it is usually being fused with the fourth, okay, dito sa distal row, and then nag-fuse din itong second and third. So all in all, it's usually 5. Okay? Now, etong pattern naman in terms of the metatarsals and the digital bones, although this is just on the metacarpals, almost the same lang naman. Yung pattern is just the same with the thoracic limb of the animals. Then, last one, we have the metatarsals and digital bones. Okay? Dito naman sa mga birds natin, the central tarsal bone and the distal tarsal bone usually being fused with the metatarsal 2, 3, and 4, forming now the tarso-metatarsal bone. So meaning to say, there is no individual tarsal bones in birds. Okay? Yung first na metatarsal bone is usually remains a separate structure, while the fifth metatarsal bone is usually, kung makikita natin, it is missing. Okay? So the tarso-metatarsus na bone usually pairs a bony process for the spur. Ito yung spur, which is more developed sa mga males natin than sa mga females. And then kung titignan natin distally, yung tarso-metatarsus, it articulates with the phalanges of the digits. Okay? So take note of the following. The digit 1 bears 2 phalanges. The digit 2 bears 3 phalanges. The digit 3, it bears 4 phalanges. And then we have the digit 4, it bears 5 phalanges. So that ends of my lecture for the pelvic limb. So all in all, tapos na tayo sa skeletal system.